Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. This is the last page of this particular sketchbook, and this is going to be part two of a concept, but I wanted to go back in time, so I marked the page here. I drew this a little while ago. This is a kind of a strange version of SpongeBob, made to look a little bit like this thing, which is a Scrub Daddy cleaning sponge, which is kind of a neat thing. Yesterday I was given this, which is a 3D printed Scrub Daddy holder. This is really cool. This is from the House of Huson, who is probably one of the world's greatest Minecraft players. So this thing is made to let your Scrub Daddy drain at your sink, and I think this is really cool. So this is going up by my kitchen sink, and yeah, so no, I just wanted to say thank you for that, because I think this is like, yeah, that's really cool. All right, I'm gonna set that there for a moment, and that'll go by my kitchen sink. Okay, so this is going to be a strange video. I don't know what the drawing is going to be like because I haven't done anything here yet. I'm going to open up the inkwell here beside me and get the pen here in a moment. Okay. Look at that. I tapped my finger on the lid of that. Anyway, so the idea here is to kind of flesh out a concept that's in my brain regarding the possibility of there being mermaids. And without just saying, oh, they exist because of magic. Well, here's what I was kind of thinking. I'm going to zoom in on this just a little bit. And concept-wise, I don't know if this exists out there. I didn't do research on this. This is just playing around inside my head. Consider this, that there's a possibility that human beings may have found a way to exist in the water. Kind of like, consider the stories of Atlantis. So right now I'm drawing the upper half of a human being as a child. So we're just going to go kind of like with a little rough outline. So let's say this is an infant child. Just roughing some fingers there. And same on this side. So let's say after a human being is born, they're given the opportunity to be a host to specially bred aquatic creatures. Wow, that's an unusual little hand that I drew there. Okay. So starting with either the neck or on the back of a human being that would allow them to live in water, they're given a very specialized version of one of these. Now this is not going to look exactly like it because, well, I did not, as I said, look this up. Pharmaceutical companies have this strange relationship with a creature called a horseshoe crab. I don't know its true name. I think they just go by that name, horseshoe crab. Unlike humans that have hemoglobin, so we have iron in our blood, that's how we move oxygen around. The horseshoe crab has blue blood, and instead of hemoglobin, I think it's called hemocyanin. Anyway, so they have copper in their blood, and their blood looks kind of blue, and it's amongst the most expensive blood that you can get on the planet. And it's used to test vaccines. I think it's used to, well, drug companies try to figure out whether certain injectable treatments, like blood treatments, can coagulate, clot basically, and they use this blood for that. Uh, as far as its value goes, I believe it's something like $15,000 a liter, which is 2 pints. It's like $60,000 for a gallon of this blue blood that they get from these creatures. The process of them draining some of the blood out of these creatures, and then it's pretty hard on them. So they try to re-release them back into the oceans, and they don't usually survive. Like maybe a third of them will die upon release. Anyway, but they're invaluable for our sake to go through these torturous things. What am I getting at with this horseshoe crab thing, which, as I said, I don't think this looks anything like it. Imagine having a version of one of these that could attach to the sides of your neck or onto your back. And what they would do is they would act kind of like a blood filter and a way to oxygenate the blood. So it's kind of like an external lung to have a creature like this attach itself to your body. Again, this is just a concept. You could still have your own lungs, so you could, get to the surface and you could breathe. But this is a specially bred version. Yeah, and I don't know. Again, this is just floating around inside my head. That looks a little strange there. They would look kind of like a horseshoe. Let's see. I'll try another version of this. I remember watching a program with this a few years ago about these horseshoe crabs. It just seemed kind of amazing to me that they haven't found a way to perfectly synthesize a way of doing this kind of testing without having to use this creature. Anyway, so let's say this is the horseshoe crab. We'll call it a blood filter. And it oxygenates. Let's see. As far as the lower half of a mermaid, so let's say at birth you're given a very specialized type of sailfish, and it kind of partially consumes the lower half of the body. So let's say this is the mouth of the fish, and it has a set of gills as well. And much like the horseshoe crab, this fish has a symbiotic relationship with the host, which would be the person. Now, because the person is not using the legs anymore, the legs would atrophy on the inside of this creature's mouth. Sailfish would be sort of like a tuna or a marlin. Okay. Okay, so this would stay alive. That fish would continue to be alive. Let's back this out a little bit more. Continue to be alive, um, but living off the host mainly. So let's say this is a sailfish. Sailfish attachment, we'll call it. Dip this pen. And of course, these are amongst the fastest animals in the ocean. Like, I mean, a tuna, they are extraordinary in their speed in the water. And if you had a tuna that could attach itself to you, I mean, yeah, like they're race car fast. I think that one of the problems with a human being spending so much time in the water would be your skin is your largest organ. And if it's submerged in water for a great deal of time, it'll start to break down. Like your body will absorb a lot of water, the cells of your body would expand, and it would cause them to rupture. So you might get that sort of wrinkly sort of skin where it tries to draw in on itself to not take on so much water, and then it would just start to expand and bloat, and then it would start to break down. So you'd need some sort of like a waxy coating of sorts. I think whenever people would swim the English Channel, they would have used like lard, like animal fats, or petroleum jelly. I think they call something like that, like lanolin or something like that. I think it's called lanolin. And they'd coat themselves in that. I think that also gave them, I don't know if it really protected them so much from the cold. I think moving was the true benefit for that. There's a possibility, though, that that coating that they gave themselves in some ways was a little more hydrophobic, as in like it would disperse the water away from the body, and maybe, yeah, I don't know, I should have looked that up. I have a feeling though that it probably helped with a little bit of how you could move in the water as well, possibly. So let's say a wax or fat. I'm going to dip the pen here again. Wax, fat. And petroleum, of course, is oil, right? Or I'm going to say oil instead of just petroleum. Skin coating. For extended submersion. And we're going to say salt water. So as far as where this horseshoe crab blood filter oxygenation type creature would go, you could possibly have some off the carotid artery, or maybe on the back, kind of like maybe it would get closer to the lungs. So maybe it has smaller ones here and then larger ones on the back, or maybe one big one on the back that would act almost like a scuba tank. Anyway, I'm just playing around with an idea in my head about the possibility of, how you could make uh, a mermaid without using magic or some other mechanical means. I know that blood scrubbers exist. I know that you can get machines that can oxygenate blood that sit outside the body. There's a funny name for that. I will think of that in a moment. For some reason, I can think of an acronym. It's not MCO. It's like, anyway, I will come up with that in a moment. So, what else could you do to make a mermaid? A sailfish attachment. This would be for movement. I'll just say that for movement. And this would be mermaids. And we'll call it a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship. In the oceans. So in some way, and right now, let me zoom in on that so you can see what ridiculous thing I'm doing. I'm just adding like the invisible x-ray, kind of what could be on the inside of what's going on here. This would be the legs that would be atrophied. So imagine the possibility of, what am I getting at? A wheelchair of sorts, but a living wheelchair. If you could have, you know what? The umbilical cord is a remarkable way. So I'm going to just add this in here. For a human to exist in fluid, yeah, that's a funny thought that just popped into my head. To exist in fluid. I mean, during the gestation period, you're in fluid. Amniotic fluid is the other name for that. For 9 months. It's a long time to spend in water for a human being. And babies are kind of born with like a waxy sort of coating to them. That's interesting. So if you look at it that way, perhaps human beings, for the first part of their lives, although this is going to sound mean, we're kind of like parasites to our mothers through our umbilical cord. That's where we get our nutrition. That's where our blood gets cleaned and oxygenated, not oxygenated, oxygenated through the umbilical cord. So we're kind of mermaids for the first 9 months of our lives. We're living in water. Okay. So imagine you could have your placenta, which is the means by which to attach oneself to uh, your mother, your host. If that could attach itself to the fish's liver and internal organs as well, if there was a way to do that. And there, yeah, no, that's I don't know why that just popped into my head now. I think that's interesting. So you would almost have to do this as a prenatal surgery of sorts in order to keep. Yeah, that's weird. I wonder how long you can actually keep a the use of your belly button for food and things of that nature. That's a really weird concept that just kind of popped into my head. All right, well, maybe I should leave it alone, but um, just for note taking sake. Let's say that's really weird. Yeah. We'll say, I'm going to dip the pen here. Placenta is joined. That's probably a good word. Joined to the fish. So that would probably mean, I'm going to say legs atrophy. Legs. I don't know if it's a double T. Atrophy. And nutrients. And we'll say blood is exchanged through the umbilical cord. All right. That's the idea. I know that's wacky. Let's just say that's kind of where I was going with this. Yeah, if you could make a mermaid, I think that would be kind of a possibility to do it without a true mechanical source or just saying magic. That you could find a way to have a human being attach itself to aquatic life. We're not the same, obviously. Uh, is it possible that you could genetically manipulate either the fish or the humans to adapt to life in the ocean? Can't tell you that. Is that a game that we should play? Oh, I would say no. We shouldn't play that game. I would be very curious, though, if something like this is possible. And over on like Alex draws or makes awesome art. Yeah, I've pondered that sort of question as well. You know, if scientists should do stuff like this. Not great to do this kind of thing to a human being or to the animals. But anyway, no, just an idea. Anyway, folks, I don't know how much more I need to do with that. This is the final page of this particular sketchbook, so I will, yeah, I'll let this one go. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, oh, that's an interesting sort of concept that I had running around in my head. I hope you have a great day. Come back again. Hopefully we'll do something a little less wild than this. All right. Yeah. Ciao for now. This is really strange.